You ever have that one friend who gets into a relationship and completely disappears? You stop hearing from them, they never come outside, and suddenly they're spending every waking moment with their new bae? Well, imagine if the person that disappeared was with the boogeyman living inside a haunted house. Welcome back to NSD, your safe space for chaotic lore, messy stories, and horror comics that'll have you questioning every red flag your homegirl keeps ignoring. Today, we're covering The Me You Love in the Dark, a supernatural horror romance about a struggling artist, a lonely entity living in a haunted house, and what happens when being understood starts to matter more than being safe. Let's get into it. Chapter 1. A young artist asks the realtor what's the deal with the strange old house she's showing her. The realtor hesitates before admitting that over the years, several of the owners have either disappeared, gone missing, or left under strange circumstances. Eventually, she just sighs and suggests they move on to another property. But the artist refuses. Haunted or not, this place is exactly what she's been looking for. As she carries another box through the house, she casually asks the imaginary ghost if it could help her unpack, maybe hang a picture or two. No response. Rude. Eventually, she settles into the art room. She pours herself a glass of wine, positions a fresh canvas on the easel, and waits for inspiration to strike. It never does. One evening, after another failed attempt at painting, she sighs and addresses the house's supposed ghost. At the very least, you could pour me a glass of wine, or start a record. What good is a haunted house if it can't even manage a quality haunting? The joke earns no response, as usual. Eventually, she gets up and goes to bed, telling the unseen spirit goodnight. The following day begins much the same. She prepares for another painting session and pours herself a glass of wine. Then she hears music coming from the art room. Music she distinctly remembers turning off the night before. Before she can investigate, her phone rings, and it's her agent. He asked if he caught her at a bad time, joking that maybe she was having a little me time. She jokes back that she wishes she was, and tries to get off the phone. Unfortunately, he's not calling to chat. He wants to know what she's been doing since disappearing out there. She claims she'd been getting a lot of work done, and he doesn't buy it. He reminds her that everyone is waiting for her next gallery show, and hopes he doesn't regret letting her run off to what he calls her Midwest limbo to find her artistic voice. People are waiting, bills need to be paid, and the gallery isn't going to keep itself open. After the call ends, she returns to her easel and forces herself to work. She paints a little, stops, steps back, looks at the canvas, then throws her wine glass at it. She loses her shit. Easel goes flying, she grabs up the chair, and soon she's tearing apart half the room while screaming at herself. How am I supposed to be this big shot artist when I can't even create a single decent piece of art? Eventually, she collapses to the floor and starts talking to the ghost again. Maybe she should just go back to being a struggling artist working in a coffee shop. Back then, she was hungry, and she actually had something she needed to say. Now, she's just some spoiled artist renting a giant house in the middle of nowhere, hoping she'll magically find herself. She laughs and then looks around the room. So what do you think? Should I go back to being a barista? Then a voice answers.
No.
The response scares the holy moly out of her, and for one glorious moment, she becomes the smartest horror protagonist in history. She runs out the house. Outside, she tries convincing herself she's losing her mind. Maybe she's drinking too much and spending too much time alone. Yeah, she just needs to go outside and touch some grass. Eventually, she works up the courage to go back inside. As she walks through the front door, she talks to the ghost again. Nice try. I'm not falling for that. You're not real. Then she walks into the art room. Written across the blank canvas are two simple words. I'm sorry. Now she's really freaking out, though admittedly, it's also kinda sweet. She stares at the message before finally asking the question she's been avoiding. Are you real? The voice answers once more.
I'm not sure if you're going mad, but I'm very real.
Chapter 2. The ghost asks if she's alright. She thinks about it for a moment before admitting she's not entirely sure, but she's okay. The ghost finds that answer odd. She tells him that's rich coming from the thing living inside the walls of a haunted house. The ghost asks if she truly believes he's a ghost. Well, it's certainly what it seems like. He pauses.
That's what most people say, but to me, I'm something else.
Then the entity says her name.
Rowena.
That immediately catches her attention. How does he know that? The ghost seems amused by the question and tells her he's observant. After all, she's been living there for weeks. Still, the reality of the situation is beginning to settle in. She's standing in a house she's been talking to for months, and now it's talking back. The ghost notices her growing discomfort and gently suggests she get some rest. He offers to walk her to her room. Before they leave, she corrects him. It's Ro. My name is Ro. She admits she's never liked Rowena. It sounds old. She asks if he thinks it sounds old too. The ghost is quiet for a moment. Then he tells her they probably have very different ideas about what qualifies as old. He tells her to lie down and try to get some sleep. She stops before entering her room. Wait, you haven't been... The question dies in her throat. The ghost understands and says,
No, never.
Before closing the door, she asks one final question. Will I see you tomorrow?
Only if you want to.
She shuts the door and locks it behind her, though for the first time she realizes how completely useless a lock is against something that can apparently appear anywhere in the house. Ro leans against the door and exhales. She should leave. She should absolutely get the fuck out of this house. But that sounds like a problem for tomorrow. Curling up on the floor, she decides she'll deal with the haunted entity in the morning. The next day, she wakes up and looks around the room, almost as if she's hoping he'll be there. The thought catches her off guard. Throughout the day, she finds herself glancing into empty corners and lingering in doorways. Eventually, she sits down with a cup of coffee and decides to stop pretending. Are you there?
If you like.
She laughs. Oddly enough, she's relieved. She tells him she doesn't mind his company. In fact, it makes her happy. The entity seems pleased by that. Curious now, she asks how long he's been in the house. The ghost goes quiet for a moment. Then he tells her that his relationship with this place and with time itself is somewhat complicated. She immediately gives him a skeptical look. The entity explains that his story is long and not particularly easy to tell. Instead, he asks what brought her here. Her art, or rather her lack of it. She's tired of painting bright, happy, generic pieces that people expect from her. And for years, she's wanted to shed that identity and create something that felt real. When she saw this house, it spoke to her. She thought maybe she could find herself here. Unfortunately, that hasn't exactly worked out. The entity suggests that perhaps what she needs isn't talent, it's an inspiration. He offers to get her more coffee, and she declines, but he insists. The light suddenly goes dark. A candle flickers to life somewhere in the room. Moments later, a fresh cup of coffee appears near her. She thanks him. The entity tells her he enjoyed their conversation. She blinks. That's it? He says she has something she needs to find, and he wouldn't want to interrupt. Before disappearing back into the darkness, he tells her they should talk again soon. The next day, she decides to try something different. Instead of painting in the bright sunlit studio, she moves into another room. She turns off the lights, lights a single candle, and begins to paint. For the first time in months, the brush moves effortlessly. Each stroke feels alive, natural, like she finally stopped fighting herself. When she finally steps back to look at the finished piece, she can't help but smile. I think I found it. Then she glances into the darkness. If you'd like to see, the entity appears beside her. Together, they look at the painting. A portrait of a man. The entity studies it for a moment before asking if that's how she sees him. Ro tells him yes. The entity is quiet. Then he smiles.
I think you found your something.
He looks back at the painting.
And it is beautiful.
Chapter 3. Ro paints happily while her dark entity watches nearby. For the third time that day, he asks when she's going to be done. Ro tells him to let her paint.
The painting isn't going anywhere,
he argues. She laughs and reminds him that's exactly why she needs to be painting. The entity pouts a little and flirts with her shamelessly. Ro assures him she'll be down to play when he's finished. Apparently satisfied with that answer, he leaves her alone. For all of 5 minutes. Before long, Ro hears her favorite record playing in the next room. She pauses and yells out, "You better not be doing what I think you're doing." Getting up from her easel, she follows the music into the living room. That's not fair. The entity seems amused.
One day you'll have to teach me the concept of fairness.
Ro laughs. She teases him a bit, reminding him that he's some ancient old thing that doesn't understand all the layers of her. The entity disagrees. He insists he knows her very well. Then he offers her his hand.
Shall we?
This time she doesn't hesitate. The two begin to dance, slowly swaying together as the music fills the room. One thing leads to another. Touches become caresses, and those caresses become kisses. And before long, neither of them is paying much attention to the record anymore. Sometime later, Ro is relaxing around the house when her phone rings. It's her agent checking in on her for progress. Her gallery show is only a few months away, and he wants an update. Ro tells him she's almost ready, then casually mentions she needs to push back the show for a few months. This poor man clearly dies on the spot. Girl, don't do this to me. Then he stops. Wait, what are you doing? Ro casually tells him she's making popcorn. The agent is horrified. That popcorn better somehow be art related, and if it isn't, I'll come find whatever haunted farm you're living on and make you regret it. Ro asks if she's ever let him down. He immediately says yes, so many times. She laughs and tells him to trust her. When he sees the project, it'll all make sense. It's the most personal work she's ever created, and the agent groans, but eventually gives in. He tells her he loves her and to do her thing, and she tells him she loves him too, and they'll talk later. After hanging up, she joins the entity in the other room. The first thing he notices is the popcorn. Ro plops down beside him and asks if he'd like to watch something different tonight. The entity looks confused. Did she not enjoy the movie? She assures him she does. It's a modern classic. She's just curious why he's so obsessed with watching it over and over again. The entity admits he's fascinated by the main character's desire to learn. Ro laughs. So you like the educational aspects? The two continue watching. Eventually, the entity notices she's struggling to keep her eyes open. He gently asks if it's time for bed. Ro insists she wants to keep watching. But a few moments later, she's asleep. Halloween eventually arrives. Ro stands by the window, wondering why nobody ever comes by to trick or treat. The entity explains that children tend to be wary of haunted houses, and Ro rolls her eyes. Those are just rumors. This place isn't
Haunted?
The entity finishes for her. Such a silly word. Ro laughs. Sometimes she forgets he's not exactly real. The entity reminds her that real is a very fluid idea. Oddly enough, she likes it when he says that. Time continues to pass. Ro paints. The entity brings her wine, sets the mood, keeps her company, and before either of them realize it, autumn has given way to winter. One afternoon, Ro bakes cookies while telling the entity about her family's holiday traditions. Every Christmas season, a dozen people would somehow cram themselves into her grandmother's tiny kitchen. Everyone talking, cooking, and getting in each other's way. As she talks, tears begin slipping down her face. The entity notices. He asks why the memory is making her sad, and Ro isn't entirely sure. She admits she's always imagined doing something like that with her own family one day, making cookies with her children. The entity asks if she wants children, and Ro immediately panics. No. Then pauses. Maybe. Then pauses again. Just not yet. She chose the life of an artist, and understands what comes with that. A life spent chasing the unknown, much like him. Christmas eventually arrives. Ro asks if the entity enjoyed the movie they watched. He tells her she'd better prepare herself because he plans on watching it many, many more times. She's delighted that he likes Love Actually, though she still maintains that About Time is the superior film. She offers to watch it again, but before she can grab the popcorn, the entity stops her. There's something he wants to show her. As they walk, Ro mentions how her family used to get so impatient that they would start opening presents on Christmas Eve. The entity says that sounds like a good tradition. Then he leads her into a dark room. He sits her down, and a candle flickers to life. He tells her to look up, and she does, and freezes. The display is beautiful, and the entity asks if she likes it. All she can do is nod. He tells her he could bring the entire world to her here, anything she could ever want. Ro doesn't know what to say. The entity tells her she doesn't have to say anything, as long as she's happy. That's enough for him. Ro takes his hand and leads him towards her bedroom. The entity stops. She turns back. Why are you stopping? He reminds her of the promise he made, that he would never pressure her. Ro smiles. This time she's the one asking. The entity hesitates, asking if she's sure. She tells him, "Stop talking, dummy." Then she pulls him inside, and the two kiss. Chapter 4. Spring finally arrives. Ro throws open the curtains, letting sunlight and fresh air pour into the room. The entity immediately tells her to close them and go back to bed, but Ro laughs. No way. She's been cooped up in this house for months. The entity looks at her.
Are you saying that it hasn't been pleasurable?
Ro stares at him. He knows that's not what she meant. She quickly backtracks, explaining that she spent months painting in the dark with him. She just thinks touching grass might do her some good. The entity doesn't seem convinced.
Fine, go outside. Enjoy your day.
Ro asks if he's upset. The entity insists he isn't. She decides to take a quick shower and run in town for supplies. It won't hurt him to miss her a little. As she head downstairs, a smell stops her in her tracks. Breakfast. A full breakfast spread is waiting for her on the dining room table. The entity thought she'd like something to eat before leaving. She wanted to go out, but Ro says she'll just have to order her art supplies instead. A week later, she's back in her usual spot: wine, candlelight, and paints. The entity asks her to come dance, but Ro doesn't want to dance. Not today. She wants to paint. The entity complains that's all she ever wants to do anymore, and Ro finally snaps back. No. That's not true. She hasn't left this house since she met him, and she spends every minute of every day with him, whether she means to or not. And yes, painting should be important to her. That's why she came here in the first place. She didn't come here to fall in love with whatever the The roar shakes the entire house. The candles blow out and the walls tremble. The entity falls silent, then apologizes. He didn't mean to lose his temper. His feelings for her have become difficult to control. He's trying, if she'll let him. Eventually, the two settle onto the couch together, wine glasses in hand, a movie playing in the background. The entity continues talking through half of it. Normally, Rue would laugh, but this time, she tells him to be quiet and watch. Something has changed. Later that night, he asks if something is wrong. Ro insists everything is fine. The entity knows she's hiding something. She closes her bedroom door anyway. He asks why she's doing this to him, but the truth is, Ro just wants a night or two to herself, because lately she hasn't been happy. As she paints alone in the dark, red paint splatters across the canvas. Anger, frustration, resentment, all of it bleeding into the artwork. Not long after, her agent calls. The moment she answers, he knows something is wrong. But Ro insists she's fine, and he doesn't believe her. Before he can push the issue, she abruptly ends the call. A few days later, sunlight once again fills the room. Ro opens the curtains. The entity tells her to close them. She refuses. His voice grows sharper.
I want them closed.
Ro grabs the curtains and yanks them open even wider. And I want them open! The entity grows quiet and tells her she's going to regret that. Later in the afternoon, Ro sits painting. Empty wine bottles and glasses clutter the room around her. Then someone knocks at the door. The sound startles her so badly that she knocks over her paint water. Fuck. She already knows who it is. The entity asks if she knows the visitor. Ro reluctantly admits she does. It's her agent. Outside, he's freezing, yelling through the door, asking if she's still alive. The entity wants to know why she brought this man to his home. Ro insists she didn't, and he tells her to ignore him, but she can't. Her agent has been trying to check on her for months. At this point, he's probably ready to break the door down. Finally, she opens it. Her agent looks relieved. Look, she's alive. Ro doesn't exactly offer a warm welcome. He's surprised. Especially considering they're in the middle of nowhere where everyone's supposedly friendly. As he steps inside, he comments on how dark the house is. For a second, he wonders if her power got shut off. Then he finds a light switch and turns everything on. The entity hates that. Her agent doesn't notice. He tells her he wants her to show him the work. So she does. The agent is stunned. Ro claimed she was almost done, but from the looks of it, she has enough material for 10 art shows. He was fully prepared to give his "I'm dropping you as a client" speech, but instead he's impressed at first. Then he starts really looking at her paintings. They're beautiful, but they're also dark, disturbingly dark. He asks where all of this is coming from. Behind him, the entity whispers,
Make him leave, or I will.
Ro ignores him. The agent continues studying the paintings. He knows Ro wanted a new direction, but this doesn't feel healthy. He asks her a simple question. You'd tell me if something was wrong, right? Ro answers a little too quickly and a little too loudly. Nothing is wrong, she's just tired. The agent looks around the room. The candles and the wine glasses, with the state of the house and her. No, whatever she's been doing out here for the past year, she's definitely not okay. Ro insists she's fine, but he ignores her. At this point, she's leaving with him. He starts booking flights. Anywhere. He doesn't care where. He just needs to get her out of this gothic Lydia Dietz situation she's got going on. Ro slaps the phone out of his hand. He's confused and concerned, wondering what the hell is happening. Ro starts shouting, he shouldn't have come here. He needs to leave now. The agent grabs her shoulder. She's his friend and he wants answers. Why can't you leave? What's keeping you here? Ro says the thing she's been terrified to admit. He won't let me. The room goes dark. The agent looks around. Who won't let you leave? Does somebody else live here? Then something begins forcing its way through the doorway behind him. Ro points behind him. Him. Chapter 5. Ro sits frozen in shock. Her friend's broken body lies at her feet. What did you do? The entity doesn't understand the question. He simply explains that he made him leave. Leave? Ro stares at him in horror. You killed him! The entity tries to apologize and comfort her, but Ro smashes a bottle against him and tells him not to touch her. As he reaches for her again, she finally sees him clearly. The handsome face she painted is on his face, but now she can see the darkness hiding underneath.
This is the me you love, is it not?
Ro recoils in disgust. Confused, the entity decides to fix the problem himself. He picks up her friend's body and begins moving it like a puppet. Blood spills across the floor as he forces the corpse to imitate life. Ro screams at him to stop, but the entity does not understand. He thought bringing him back would make her happy. Finally, she breaks down. What the fuck are you? The entity drops the body and smiles sadly.
Oh, my dear Rowena, you know what I am. I'm the something that loves you, the something you love.
Ro runs for the door. She has to leave, but dozens of hands emerge from the wood and hold it shut.
You can't leave me.
Desperate, she tries to reason with him. She just needs space, time to think. But the entity knows she's lying. He grabs her tightly, insisting she needs him. Then just as quickly, he apologizes. He only wants things to go back the way they were, back when she loved him. And he knows exactly how to fix it. Painting. Painting has always helped her see him. So he drags her into the art room and tells her to paint. This time, Ro agrees, but as usual, alone. Hours later, she emerges with a finished piece. The entity asks if she feels better, and Ro says yes. Painting helped her see clearly. For a while, she became obsessed with the idea of him, the idea that someone could truly see her. But now she finally sees him for what he really is. The painting reveals a creature of endless darkness. Then Ro grabs a container of paint thinner. She sets it on fire and throws it directly at him. The entity erupts in flames. As the house burns around them, Ro runs. Paintings catch fire, walls collapse, and the entity stretches through the house, desperately trying to stop her from leaving. But it's too late. The flames consume him, and moments later, Ro stands outside watching the house burn to the ground. She watches until nothing remains. Then she finally smiles. Sometime later, two friends browse through an antique store. Most of the artwork doesn't interest them until one of them notices a painting. The other dismisses it. It just looks like an old burnt canvas, but something about it feels different. For some reason, she can't stop staring at it. Maybe it's nothing, but all she knows is, for some reason, she thinks she loves it. And that's The Me You Love in the Dark. A story that starts off feeling like a supernatural romance slowly reveals itself to be something much darker. Personally, I think this story can be read in a lot of different ways. On one level, it's a horror romance about a lonely woman and a monster. But it also feels like an allegory for abusive relationships, loneliness, or losing yourself into another person, and what can happen when someone falls in love with the version of you they've created in their head instead of who you actually are. The entity loved Ro, but only as long as she fit the version of her he wanted to keep. Once she started pulling away and reconnecting with herself, that's when things became dangerous. But that's just my interpretation. Also, thank you guys for all the support lately. We're really getting close to full monetization, and thanks to you all, Super Thanks is now available if you'd like to support the channel a little extra. I'm also starting to plan out channel memberships, so let me know what you'd actually want from a members group. I'm all ears. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you